Hi, pal.
Yep. Hi, Alice. How are you?
I'm good. How are you going?
Not too bad. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And you're actually in the Philippines at the moment, correct?
Yes, I am.
That's really
Do you,
cool. So, I just wanted to ask you a bit about your musical background, and we'll get into the song that you've just put out. But yeah, I just want to know a bit about your musical background.
right. First of all, thank you so much for listening to my debut single. It really means a lot. Um, I think the first memory I have of sort of me, I guess, singing goes back to when I was 6 years old, and my parents kind of asking me to join the singing contest, which I didn't really mind. I just had to do what my parents told me to. I I don't have any like formal education on music. I do enjoy singing, and I play a bit of piano, um, but I'm not proficient at it like by any means.
Oh, I mean, I've
Um,
seen the videos on Instagram. You're very good. Like,
oh, thank
you
you.
seem very confident on the piano and everything.
Yeah, just kind of pop a few chords here and there.
I mean, I do the same, so that's all good. So in terms of the song Spiral that you released, was this a song that you wrote a while ago, or was this something that had kind of come up recently? I've seen that you've done covers on your social media. Was this something that you've always wanted to put out? When did that kind of come about?
Um, I started writing it, I think probably December last year or January this year. I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to write about. I knew that I wanted to try to write some music. So it took like a few, like a different sort of directions to find the theme that I wanted to talk about. But I think at its core, it's really just about wanting to find a peace of mind. And also, I think what inspired me really to start writing it is just the feeling of being stagnant and sort of letting fear and worries take control over your life. I think these are pretty universal themes that everyone to some extent experiences, especially in this pandemic. I do think
Yeah.
the whole lockdown situation gave me that kick to get those creativity going. Although I was a bit reluctant to put it out at first,
Why is
because
that?
of the uh, because when you sort of put it out there, you would inevitably draw criticism. I'm
Yeah.
okay with criticism, but I guess a part of me is still scared about negative criticism. But it's just something that you
Okay.
have to come to terms with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. Criticism is definitely a scary thing as an artist to come to terms with because obviously, while you'll meet a lot of praise, there are people who may not like it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've ever at any point had to face a certain level of criticism that maybe has like made that fear a little higher or
Um, I've always said that I've been allergic to the spotlight, despite sort of singing in some school productions when I was younger. As I grew older, I became more conscious about what other people would think. But eventually, I'm trying to sort of grow out of that. And I think putting this song out is a step towards reaching that goal, I suppose.
yeah, it's
Uh,
definitely, I think releasing the first song is always the hardest because it's that first step where you're being really personal with everyone
yeah.
and really putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to know in terms of you have a very low alto voice. I feel like and a lot of the times it's very special I think when I hear voices like that because you don't
Thank you
always
so
hear it.
much.
Yeah, because you don't always get to hear it amongst female singers, and what it reminds me of is kind of like when I heard like London Grammar for the first time, and I was like, wow, like that is such a sick voice. When do you feel like you came to terms with like, wow, I have this like really deep, rich voice? Like, was there kind of a like, oh, this is different to like maybe other singers?
It's actually good that you brought that up because I used to have a love-hate relationship with my deep voice just because a lot of the songs I hear have really light and airy voices, which sound really pretty. But I think listening to sort of early jazz singers made me have a greater appreciation for it, definitely. Yeah, I think also part of choosing the kind of production for the song is thinking about what sort of instrumentals or sounds would my voice would gel with best.
Yeah, no, for sure. Would you say, you mentioned jazz, would you say there are any like singers that you take a lot of inspiration from?
So there's Julie London. She I heard her song called Cry Me a River like years back. um, and I thought, oh, this kind of resembles my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's definitely, I can completely relate to the sometimes when you feel like your type of music or sound doesn't match the popular, you kind of feel love-hate relationship with it because you're not sure like, oh, am I doing something that people will love? Will people hate this? So it can definitely be a battle.
Yeah, it was.
And then in terms of the use of animation with the song for Spiral, was that
Mhm.
something that you always were going to do? And then obviously being in lockdown and the world being crazy, we can't really just like do a full music video setup, but was that always the plan to do an animation?
Um, it's actually really funny because from production to sort of the music video, everything was done remotely. Uh, the music video was done by my cousin who's back in Australia.
Okay.
And most, if not all of the shots were hand drawn, and it was based from either my older photos or some sort of visual references that she got online.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw some of the photos being turned into the animation. That was so cool. Like it's an amazing video to have.
Yeah, it's I think the goal for that was definitely to get something that's a little haunting and surrealistic, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
feel like for future songs, do you see yourself doing more animations or what do you kind of think?
Um, I definitely wouldn't mind still incorporating some animation in there, but it would also be great, I guess, to take a different path or visual imagery for if ever I do release a song in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do you kind of see your music going? Do you kind of just want to put out stuff when you feel like it, or do you have a sense of pressure that you have to like release lots of stuff? Like what do you feel?
I feel like the pressure that I've been getting for the most part comes from my parents and my grandparents telling me, which I think is really sweet.
They're like, put out more music,
Yeah, like,
please.
what if I run out of melodies in my head to write? But
I'm living for the ride and it's taking a while, I know. Always looking for a sign on the line and lead the way to go. Slow it down and better step on the brakes. We trip, we fall, we lose, we make mistakes. Stop looking for a sign and just let go.
it would be nice though to sort of release an EP, but that's sort of a dream for now.
Do you
Yeah.
when you're writing and like thinking about your music, do you work collaboratively with other people or is it a very solo process?
Um, for Spiral, I did the melody first and then the lyrics, and then I reached out to a producer to do the arrangements and the kind of vibe that I wanted, as well as the artists that I wanted to draw inspiration from. So it's, I think it's a pretty collaborative process. And I think it's also one of the things that sort of spurred that interest to make music. How when you see like a certain song and you look up I don't know, the Wikipedia page, you would sort of see that it's mostly a collaborative process from mixing to engineering to
Yeah.
producing.
Yeah. I think it's a really important thing for artists to remember that if you don't feel like you have the strength to do every single job that requires building a song, it's so important to reach out to other people because they will have strengths and they can help you. And it's a really nice process when, you can reach out to people and they can help you build an amazing song in the end.
That's true. Like, I tried producing for a couple of weeks and I basically gave up on it. I was like, this clearly is not my strength. But, again, it's a collaborative process for the most part.
Yeah. And then you kind of touched briefly on feeling like it's a bit hard to like put yourself out there. In terms of like using social media to promote yourself and to promote your music, have you found that to be out of your comfort zone, or do you feel like it's becoming a bit more natural? How do you feel about that?
I think I'm still getting the hang of it. It definitely was a little terrifying at first. I didn't really start following all my friends until I've released like some previews for the single. But before that, it was pretty much like a shut off thing. But yeah, I guess it's sort of inevitable to have social media presence, to have some social media presence if you want your music to be heard by people.
Yeah. It's definitely hard to be an artist today and to completely avoid online activity, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then, so in terms of, do you almost see, because for me, when I watch the animation and the song with the animation, I could kind of see it in like a movie or like TV show. Like it had kind of this like very ambient sound that maybe you would hear in, like, I guess an animation that you would see in like a movie. Could you ever see yourself producing for movie or television like that?
I mean, if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I did phrase that as like it's just this really easy thing to do.
Yeah, if given the opportunity, like, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
And
someday.
yeah.
Maybe.
And yeah, I definitely found that Spiral has this real, it sounds a lot like a ballad in a way. Do you like being really theatrical with your sound and making it sound like really big and orchestral? Like, is that something you quite like?
I do. I've always gravitated towards that sort of, I suppose, sounds or arrangement. When I listen to artists like Kovacs or Florence, their songs are very much driven by the string section.
Yeah.
They use a bit of synthesizers as well, but just moderately. I'm not even sure if Florence really uses it. They probably do on some songs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they definitely focus more on the strings and
I guess I like the cinematic quality and appeal that it brings to a song, and it does add like an ethereal sort of layer to it.
Yeah.
And it transports you to just like a different space.
Yeah. Could you see yourself doing kind of more jazz influenced music? Or do you prefer doing covers of jazz?
Probably. I think covers are fine. I do think jazz is way more complicated in terms of the chords.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not. I probably won't be composing any jazz pieces, but I don't mind a few jazz covers.
I can relate to that. I love trying to have a good sing to a jazz song, but the idea of writing a jazz song, slightly too technical for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of improv going on, right?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the heart of jazz. Sort of all these expected chords or progressions going on.
Yeah. And in terms of singing live, how much have you had much experience being able to sing live or not so much?
I think the last time I sang on stage was when I was in high school.
Okay.
And then pretty much after that, I got this like really bad stage fright. Again, it comes from sort of worrying more about what other people think. I do sing karaoke with the fam occasionally.
Can't turn down a good karaoke session.
But I I hope someday I sort of gather the courage and confidence to perform live. I do think those are crucial for you to comfortably sing well on stage.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you, when you think back to performing in high school, did you feel kind of a really like, I don't know, that feeling of like this feels right as like a musician?
Um I think my voice started to sort of change in high school. Like I don't know what happened. Uh there was this one time where my voice cracked, and that probably sort of caused that fear.
Really?
But before that, I was pretty comfortable about singing on stage. But I think that sort of hiccup on my voice sort of started that fear.
Okay. So you feel like the idea of making like a little mistake on stage is a bit like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking, and how it would sort of play in your head. Oh no, I made that mistake. We're only talking about that little mistake that I did. But yeah.
But it's always so hard because I think a lot of the time as a performer, you're on stage, you make a small mistake, but a lot of the time people don't even notice. But you're like, everyone saw that, heard that, it was awful. So we're definitely our worst critics, I think, when it comes to making a mistake like that.
Yeah, definitely. But also, I think every time you put something out, whether it's a song or a cover, it's sort of also you trying to get out of that comfort zone that you've
Yeah.
been accustomed with.
Yeah, for sure. I was wondering if you could kind of talk a bit more about the lyrics in the song Spiral. So I really like the kind of imagery that you create for Spiral, and I was gonna ask about like the chorus in particular. Did you kind of come up with the verses first, or was the chorus like the first thing to pop in your mind when you were writing?
I'm trying to refresh my memory. I think I did the chorus first, and then the second verse, and then the first verse.
It's like a little jigsaw.
Yeah. I sort of just patched them together, but I definitely started with the chorus first. But yeah, so as far as themes are concerned, like I discussed earlier, essentially it's about wanting to find a peace of mind, and also I think the feeling of not making much progress these past few years because you're too busy living in fear. So kind of got me writing it.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And then in terms of the bridge, because the bridge isn't long at all, it's a very short moment where there's like a little bit of a change. Did you always know that you wanted to have that bridge in there, or were you just happy to like leave it out? Because sometimes I feel like I've noticed that sometimes artists don't feel like it's necessary to have a bridge sometimes. I'm not sure if you thought about it like that.
I think I wanted to add that bridge just to add a bit of intensity and range to the song as well, because I do know that on some parts they tend to fall quite monotonous, and partly because of the limitations of my vocal range. So I wanted that to add that intensity. I definitely struggled writing the bridge though. I think it took me it took a longer time as compared to the verses and the choruses.
Yeah, because I know I mean, I probably worded that wrong. I said that people often don't put bridges in. I more meant like, because a lot of people struggle to write the bridge, and kind of it does take a while to kind of like wrap your head around, like you've just written this whole song and then it's like you've got to find a part that's like different, and it's just it's so getting that right, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of just being like, I'm just gonna like say the chorus again but like slightly differently, maybe put a bit of ooh and ahs in there and change up. Yeah,
it was quite tricky, and also the tricky part is finding the note that would be okay with your voice and that you could actually reach.
yeah.
So I think that's also one of the trickiest parts about it. I wrote that last, definitely. That was
Yeah.
the last.
No, I definitely struggle with writing bridges as well. So, well, thank you so much for talking with me about your music and your background in music. And I'm really excited to kind of like keep an eye out on what you do. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited when I got your message.
Oh. It's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I obviously, with the world being crazy right now, it's just, yeah, you got to find ways to do interviews, but obviously you were already in the Philippines, so this kind of worked out anyway to do it.